What's up, people? Welcome back to the Republic of Arsenal podcast. And it's been a couple of hours. The dust has settled. We've had time to, sit back, take it all in, analyse what went on today. 12:30 kickoff at Turf Moor. Burnley against Arsenal. I don't know whether I kind of set the tone for myself and my own expectations when I put out on Twitter about how much I dislike the 12:30 game. How much I dislike when we play Burnley. Yeah, I don't like being right at times. But look, I've got the panel with me here today. We're one man down today, but we've still a really, really strong panel. So look, before we start getting into it and dissecting what went on, I'm going to give a shout out to the panel here. So I've got Sulz here with me. So welcome back again, Sulz, as always.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I wish it was under better circumstances today, but like our club captain, our leader, our saviour says, it is what it is.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be one of those for anybody who was watching my last couple of podcasts. I had these are familiar faces, and we were promoting positivity, and it was pretty much upbeat. But look, Arsenal being Arsenal, they've sent us crashing back down to reality fairly sharpish. So we've got Matt as well from AFC Red Room. So how's things, Matt? Thanks for coming back.
Hi Anthony, thanks for having me back on again. Good to see you and the guys. Yeah, obviously not the greatest one to come back onto, but I think it is going to be therapeutic and a good chance to vent. And I'm sure everyone in the comments section as well will get their feelings out. So it might be positive still.
Yeah,
we'll do our best. But speaking of therapy, we have the resident therapist in the house, the man from the Arsenal Therapy podcast, Farhan. So Farhan, we're going to need you here tonight. Thank God you're here with us.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Anthony, for the invite. I think it's always good when fans get together after games like this to make sense of it all. I don't know if even I'm able to give you guys therapy with the type of mess that we're in. It doesn't look good, but this gives us a really good opportunity to talk about it and to just dissect it all. Yeah, that's it exactly. Look, if there's one good thing we can take out of these therapy sessions is it is an opportunity to get it all off your chest and kind of reflect. Doesn't necessarily make it much easier because we have to watch the same squad of players playing again in a couple of days' time, so we might have to do it all over again and again and again. But hey, look, this is what we signed up for, so look, we'll roll with it. Look, that 12:30 game, as I already said, it's not my favourite. It's far from my favourite. It doesn't seem to be a favourite of the Arsenal players either. I don't know what it is about the 12:30 on a Saturday.
I disagree.
You think?
Do you know what this club hates doing? Finishing their chances.
Yeah.
These man, you know what? It is criminal, right? That these attackers week in, week out are getting absolutely rescued by this club. Because I am sorry, how many chances do you need? You're Premier League footballers, for God's sakes. 5, I can count 5 off the top of my head that they should have scored. They couldn't get 1. And this is after we scored our goal. Yep. 5 chances. I'm sorry, but Saka, you need to also start stepping up. Because if you want to be considered with the likes of Foden, the likes of Mason Greenwood, and you want to be in that starting 11 for England, you need to start finishing because you're no longer a left back. You're now fighting for a winger's position in the Euros. So you need to be taking those chances. And I'm sorry, I know he's young. But you know what it is, right? When week in, week out, you back these players, right, with your absolute everything. People say to me, where is this positive? Why do you have it? because they do show it us. But you know, when it comes to it, right, and they let you down like that, look, that again, another one where before that Xhaka mistake, this game should have been dead and buried. We shouldn't have let it get to that point. You know, every player in this team has a mistake in them. But when you're not, look, I'm not saying we should have scored 5 goals. I'm not saying 5 chances, 5 goals. That's not what I'm saying. But 5 chances, you should be getting 2. That's the bare minimum of any Premier League team, even of a relegation team. That is the expectation you have, because this is one of the best leagues in the world. And you're telling me 5, 6 chances created, and you can't take 1 in the whole game. Burnley had more shots on target than we did. Do you know how embarrassing that is? And you're expecting, you know, on Twitter today, right, I have exploded because it's how, you know, one game we do that, fine. 23 games this season, we've scored 1 goal. We back Aubameyang, you're a world-class striker, you're elite. You know, we sit there and say that about Lacazette, you're a brilliant, one of the better strikers in the Premier League. You know, we sit there and say that about Pepe, and this is how they repay us. You know why I can't be positive? It's not the result. It's not the performance. It's the attitude of these players. Mm-hmm. Our club captain, after the game, rather than thinking, you know what, let me not say anything because this fan base is not happy right now, he goes and tweets, it is what it is, and we move on to next week. I am telling you, this is why I cannot put the blame on Arteta, and I've said it time and time and time again. These players are losers. They're a bunch of ball jobs. Mm-hmm. And every single person, right, that's Arteta out, needs to really ask themselves a question. Is the mentality of this club right? This is 17 years in the making. Wenger started this mess. Gazida started this mess. And it's now continuing. Until we don't get rid of these crop of players and we bring in new players. And this is every single one of them now. Mm-hmm. There's only a very few people, right, that I'm actually starting to like. But there's not a lot. And that's why I said whoever it is, they need backing. They need players because these players are simply... You know, the other thing is, I want to ask a question, right? How many of these players would make the top 4? That would walk right into the top 4 teams. And I'm talking United. I'm talking potentially even Spurs. And I'm talking, City, Liverpool. I'm talking, possibly even Leicester. Not many you'd argue whether they make it in. Mm-hmm. And we're Arsenal Football Club, and we're arguing whether our players can make a top 4 team.
Yeah, you'd only pick 2 or 3, wouldn't you, at tops, and even then you question.
Yeah, you have to question whether they'd get. You have to make an argument for them. Yeah. They wouldn't walk in.
No, definitely not. No, but look, Sulz, I can see a different side of Mystic Sulz tonight. And look, I don't think you're not in any way out of order. I think you're spot on with basically everything you said. And look, the theme of our last couple of podcasts, we really overemphasized, praise the players when they have a good performance, praise the team when they come out with a win. So look, fair is fair. Today was a very poor performance by both individuals and collectively as a team. So look, it's only fair. Like, I think we're going to be going in on them today as a team because it was pretty pathetic. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw up the lineups. Look, I want to get your initial thoughts because it was definitely a talking point before the game. I try my best nowadays because I keep getting caught out with this when I talk about the lineup that I see initially. You'll often see a lineup that might not look the strongest, but then they'll give us something that we seen against Leicester last week. So again, I looked at this lineup today and I was trying to be positive about it, and I was saying, well, if that team we played against Leicester was good enough to beat that Leicester side, irrespective of injuries and whoever was missing for them, my initial thinking was, okay, not the strongest lineup put out. We should have enough out of us to get a result against Burnley.
I don't know if it's Anthony or is it me cutting out?
No, it's Anthony.
All right, okay. I was just making sure it's like me.
Yeah, I think I think he's gonna
Yeah.
have a few technical issues. All right, let's talk between ourselves then.
Yeah.
All right, so look, in terms of the starting lineup for me, right, I'm gonna be very frank and honest. This issue, right, that we have at Arsenal Football Club is far bigger than any issue about managers, about players. It's far bigger than where we've been in the last 5 years, whether we've been able to qualify for the Champions League, the Europa League, how many trophies we've won. Lads, this issue is bigger than anything. It's bigger than the fan base. It's bigger than anybody right now. This issue goes down directly to KSC and the way that our football club has been run. Do you know us having this conversation right now about football? Us having this conversation right now about football is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they want. We are a bunch of mugs right now sitting here and analyzing a game of football when season in, season out, we're going to see the same recycled crap until this ownership takes their finger out of their asses and does something about it. Look at that starting 11 for me, and you tell me whether you think David Luiz, Callum Chambers, Pablo Mari, Granit Xhaka, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Willian are players that are capable of winning the Premier League. You have to be really harsh and honest with yourselves, okay? Because the penny dropped for me. The penny dropped for me the moment with the final whistle blew. Okay, at the beginning of the game when I was looking at the starting 11 and I was analysing and I was saying, you know what? Luiz and Mari isn't a bad shout. David Luiz has had a fairly good season. He's a decent little player. I have faith in him. You know what? Callum Chambers has come back from injury. The last few games before he got injured, he started showing a lot of promise. There's a good player in there. You know what? Granit Xhaka sitting next to Thomas Partey is a very decent football player. But the penny dropped for me. The penny dropped for me the moment we drew 1-1 because it showed me that there is no way in hell this football club is going to get anywhere near top four. It's going to be able to compete anywhere near the qualities and the sides that we're seeing in the Premier League. Guys, we have to be honest with ourselves. We are now competing with Burnley. We drew 1-1 at Turf Moor. We're sitting there in mid-table. The facts say it all. This isn't to do with Arteta. This isn't to do with the players on the pitch. Unfortunately, we look beyond that now and we focus on the summer transfer window, which is going to be the biggest transfer window in the last 35, 40 years. I can't remember a season. And you know, I'm very well educated on where Arsenal have come from, the history side of it all. I can't remember a time where the transfer window has been this pivotal and this important. And I'll tell you something now: if the manager is not backed, if Arteta is not backed in the summer transfer window, you can wave goodbye to Arteta. You can wave goodbye to Arsenal's legacy. You can wave goodbye to the rich history that we have built, because it's all going to come crumbling down. Arsenal Football Club are going to become the Newcastle United, the modern day Newcastle United. And unless we open up our eyes and unless we stop squabbling about is Arteta in, is Arteta out, is Granit Xhaka a good football player or not? Granit Xhaka is not a football player that should be playing for Arsenal, period. David Luiz isn't a football player that should be playing for Arsenal, period. If you want to get top four, if you want to win championships, look at Manchester City and look at what they've done to their organization. There was once upon a time, guys, and I really want you to deep this. Once upon a time, Arsenal Football Club were the blueprint for Manchester City. When Manchester City were taken over by billionaires, they used our model and they used our players to build a backbone for themselves. Bakary Sagna, Gael Clichy, Emmanuel Adebayor, Samir Nasri, those were the players that they used to build their backbone, to build a foundation for themselves, where now they sit in a position where they're going to tarnish Arsenal's record of undefeated games, and they're going to build themselves a very long legacy where they're going to win championship after championship, and good on them. Good on them, because they have owners that care. Okay, and I'm not saying here, listen, I want an oil-based owner to come and take over Arsenal and spend billions of pounds every single season. The beauty about Arsenal Football Club, and the reason why I fell in love with this club, is because throughout the birth of Arsenal Football Club in Woolwich, throughout the birth, we have been outsiders. We have been we didn't belong to anywhere. Every single football club represents an area of where they come from. Arsenal Football Club doesn't. They were created with a handful of guys who worked in an armament factory, and they came together to play the game of football. Everything we have achieved, we have earned. We have earned the right to play beautiful football. We have earned the right to be the best club in the world. And what's happening right now is an ownership who doesn't give two monkeys about us. He doesn't care. We are nothing more than a statistic to him. The longer that we allow him to get away with this, the more deeper these problems will go. And this has got nothing to do with Edu. This has got nothing to do with Arteta. They are nothing more than puppets in this system. You only need to look as far as to see who's actually running things at Arsenal. Because it isn't Kroenke. It's not Kroenke. No, it's his son. It's his son who's got no experience in any business. And here he is running one of the biggest football clubs in Europe. Someone try and answer me what the hell is going on.
Yeah, look, that's the question. Firstly, I just want to say sorry. A couple of connection issues there. It seems to happen every time I move into a different room. It seems to happen. So hopefully that'll be the end of it, and I'm back now. Although maybe people listening are probably saying, hopefully his connection goes again, so I don't have to listen to him. Maybe, but yeah, look, it's going to be one of those. It's a bit heavy already, but look, as it has to be said, you know, this is important stuff. That really has to be said. And look, there's no point in sugarcoating it, you know what I mean? Like, it's important that this stuff comes out. And, you know, we've been level-headed, we've been positive, optimistic, we've defended, you know. So as I said before, it's only right that it's time to actually, you know, say it as it is. And look, you hit the nail on the head there. The difference between us and Man City, yeah, you could say, well, it's hundreds of millions of pounds, but the difference is you have an owner that's willing to spend the hundreds of millions of pounds. Like, our owner has plenty of cash. He just doesn't. He just
you know
doesn't.
what it is, Anthony? It's not about spending money. It's about spending it right.
Yeah,
it's not about. It's not about having an owner who's proactive. It's about having an owner who cares. It's about understanding, right, that we're Arsenal Football Club. We deserve better than this. We deserve an owner who wants to fucking watch this team play football. Not another business venture. Not another way of him getting the American dream. We deserve a lot better. We're not, you know, we're a club who've come through the triumphs. We are one of the biggest teams in England, and we're getting treated like absolute mugs. And you know what the other thing is, right? Why are we going to blame the manager? We had Wenger, we had Emery. You wanted experience. We had experience. What did they do? They fucked us even further. Now we got Arteta, a novice. Yeah, this novice. Let me tell you one thing about this novice, right? People are going to call him. He's inexperienced. He's all of this, right? He's the first manager in a very long time, right, to identify the fact we've never replaced Vieira. We've never replaced the centre back. This guy is targeting every position every Arsenal fan is screaming out for. He wants to now go get a number. He wanted a number 10. We didn't give it him. He knows he needs a right back. We didn't give it him. You know when people say, you know, I've been getting this all day, and I'm sorry. Xhaka and Bellerin were begged to stay because this board would not replace them. You're telling me he would have begged Bellerin to stay and now is allowing him to go? When we were linked with Alamti, when we're linked with Hakimi, when we're linked with Max Aarons. It's because they're unwilling, right, to replace these players, so he's having to keep them. There's a difference. We all complain about the board, but it seems to me, right, we forget. We seem to forget, right, when we're talking about Arsenal, we love to blame the manager. But I'm going to tell you again, and I'm going to ask the question to every single Arsenal fan. Tell me one time that he got it tactically wrong. And tell me how many times it's individual errors that have led to these goals. That's the problem. Because tactically, we're getting it right. But these players are stupid. And I'm going to say it now. These players are idiots. They have no footballing IQ. They've got as much footballing IQ as a newborn baby. They're that stupid. I don't know whether it's them acting like that. I don't know whether it's them, deliberately doing it, or whether they are that stupid. Because though that many errors in this season that have led to gold, that have led to, so much of our demise this season. How can you sit there and blame the manager? And I keep asking the question, and you know what they keep telling me? Why does he pick them? Right, I'm gonna go through this lineup, and I'm gonna be real. Leno, who who else do you put in there? No one. Mari Louise, one of our best centre backs in the league, in our squad. Who else do you put there? Okay, you could put Gabriel, but guess what? None of them were at fault today. Chambers, it is what it is, because that's one position where we were genuinely shocked. Tierney, the best left back we have in the squad. Xhaka, Thomas are the best partnership we have. Saka, one of our best players this season. Odegaard, our fit number 10. Willian, okay, we could have played Pepe there, but to be fair, Willian was not at fault today. And Aubameyang, one of our best strikers. Now, let's look at that. How many players there do you really think someone else can come in and they're genuinely better? Not many. There's probably right back. Okay, I'll give the fans that. Yeah, right back, we probably shouldn't be playing Chambers. I'll give you that. Centre backs. Okay, Gabriel, I'll give you that. There's 2. But the rest of that squad, and Willian, but 3, right? And to be fair to you, Chambers didn't have a bad game, in my opinion. Willian didn't have a bad game, in my opinion. I'm not talking they were good, but I'm just saying from the standard of the game, they weren't bad, right? And then Louise and Mari weren't at fault today. So, again, I want to ask the question, what the hell do you want the manager to do other than pick his best 11?
To be fair, Sulz, it's a mentality thing, right? Every week, like you've quite rightly said, you've quite astutely picked through that starting lineup, and I don't disagree with you. That lineup today was more than capable in terms of talent and skill and experience to go and win that game. Burnley today offered very, very little. Very little. They did not look a difficult side to beat today. They didn't pose us any real massive problems. We should have comfortably won that game 3 or 4-0, 3 or 4-1. VAR, which I'm sure we'll discuss about, shouldn't even come into the question. It is all about mentality. And like you say, when you hear players like Aubameyang coming out at the end of a game and saying, well, it is what it is, that tells you everything you need to know about what's going on inside the heads of those players. It's not a winning elite mentality that you would find at another club like Man City, who are top of the table. And I agree, we've got other issues around this club, around ownership and investment. We are a massive club, and we've had a lot of rot over a number of years, but we are operating on a mid-table mentality. And when you operate a big club on a mid-table mentality, this is what you get.
Exactly. Like it's at the stage now where it's almost not a surprise, that we get what we get, because we sort of know, we know what to expect. And of course, look, we're always going to have that little bit of hope about us, and we try our best to be optimistic and that. But look, this is the reality. The players are what they are. They're going to give us what they give us. But look, we'll move into the game itself, and it's almost as if we kind of flip things around this week, where we would say in the last couple of weeks we're such slow starters, and I think it was our last 3 games we conceded in the first 6 minutes. Today we did the opposite, and we actually scored in the 6th minute. But it just feels as though since that moment, 6 minutes in, and I keep saying this, I always go back to this, and I say, and Matt, this kind of goes into your point about the mentality. We just don't have that killer instinct. We take the lead against a team, a pretty vulnerable team. I know Burnley have drawn their last, it's now 5 games, but that side was there for the taking. And 6 minutes in, you take the lead. It's at that point, that's when you put your stamp on the game and assert your authority and say, hey, look, we're Arsenal Football Club. No disrespect, but you're Burnley. You know what I mean? We're 1-0 up after 6 minutes. It's time to finish this off. You go for the kill. I think Dortmund played today and scored. I think Haaland scored 2 goals in a couple of minutes against Bayern Munich. What I mean? This is what's wrong with Arsenal. We scored the 1 goal, and Farhan, I know you said something on Twitter earlier. I think you said it in the group chat about an arrogance about Arsenal, and I definitely sensed that as well. It felt as though I was on a panel earlier, and I compared our performance almost to the Man City performance against Arsenal. I'm not saying we are anything on the level of Man City, but Man City took a 1-0 lead against us. And, you know, you could say the arrogance in their performance was showing that they knew they didn't have to step up to second or third gear because they knew Arsenal couldn't realistically hurt them. To me, today, that felt as though Arsenal took the lead after 6 minutes and said to themselves, "It's all right, lads. It's only Burnley. They're not gonna do any damage." And completely, you know, we disregarded everything. We allowed them the ball. We allowed them to come at us, forgetting we're not very good. You know, we're not Man City. And okay, look, you can argue the point that, okay, Burnley didn't exactly do the damage. We caused the damage ourselves. But that's the difference, you know. Arsenal are their own worst enemies. But look, it's this whole thing about mentality and whatever you want to call it, lack of leadership, whatever it is, a complete lack of, you know, winners, killers in the team. There's no killer instinct like any other team. You know, they smell blood and they finish it. This for me, Sulz, I got to you on this one. This reminded me of the Wolves game all over. You know, I was seeing glimpses of that. Like, what's going on? What's the story? Is it leadership? Is it just the players just don't have the desire and the passion? Like, what is going on here?
This game is on the players. You don't need a leader to tell you to finish your chances when you get them. I'm sorry, how many more games are we going to go with 5, 6, you know, chances created and not score a single one of them? How many more games, right, are we only going to score 1 goal in? It comes to a point, right, where I can't question the tactics anymore, because the only thing Arteta can now at this point do is come and score those goals himself. That is literally the only thing you can do. He's putting them in positions, right, to go win this game, to kill this game off within the first in the first 10 minutes, right, we could have killed this game. We could have absolutely, if people were impressed by Spurs' scoreline, we could have absolutely demolished them. We could have got them 3, 4 goals up, right? But you know what we want to do instead? Oh yeah, do you know what? Because the players have it easy, because they never get called out on their absolute bullshit. And today's the first time, right, I actually responded, right, and I said, you know what, public people know my theory of these apologies and, oh, I'm sorry I made a mistake. And, on the Aubameyang situation, I'm not one to call players out, but I'm sorry today I had to do it, because I am sick to fucking death of these apologies. I'm sick to death of them constantly coming out and saying, oh, we're sorry, we know we didn't play good. Stop saying it, because it seems to be you've got a tweet lined up because you already know you're going to be shit. It's coincident. Oh yeah, Aubameyang, can you do a press conference after the game? No, but I can tweet. Stop doing that.
But like,
it's not, what it is?
Point?
It's not a lack of leadership anymore. I don't care about the leadership. It's these players are losers.
Yeah.
And they're right. And I don't care how harsh I'm being, because I am not seeing, the only game, right? And I don't even think, the only reason we won that Benfica game, right, was because of Tierney. Because Tierney would have absolutely, I don't even want to, he would have battered the crap out of them for not winning that. Yeah. He's the only one in the team, right? And I'm genuinely being serious. I can't think of anyone else, possibly Partey, but Partey doesn't really have that vocal skill.
No.
Yeah?
No.
But
this is really want to win. That really show the passion.
This is where I think, the leadership thing, I actually think is so critical for this club at the moment. I think right now, we absolutely need a leader. We need someone who can get into that dressing room at half time and shake the living daylights out of players and say, what the hell are you doing? We need that. We don't have any personality, real character. We don't have the likes of a Tony Adams in there. Can you imagine that kind of performance and these mistakes happening week in, week out, happening in that era? Not a chance.
I want to punch the players. Chance. That's how annoyed I am.
There's no leadership. Absolutely none whatsoever. And it's just shocking because they're all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. And like Sulz was saying, it seems to be it's the same recycled old garbage that we're hearing the whole time. This yeah, sorry, wasn't good enough. We'll get it right next time.
You know what, Anthony? Like, you know when Xhaka didn't apologize for his red card, I was actually happy. I'm not gonna lie, I was absolutely ecstatic that he didn't apologize. And you know why that is? I don't want to hear your apologies. You know what? He actually did apologize, but with his performances.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so
exactly.
That's what I want. I don't care about your meaningless PR apologies. I don't think the fan base at this point give a crap. You know, back on top with Mustafi. Now we've got Xhaka coming out and apologizing. Now we've got our club captain coming out and saying it is what it is. No, it's not. We're 10th. Get real.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I say I'm at the point of I don't know what else, right? Because we can keep changing the manager, but you know what that's going to do? Set us another 2-3 years back. So we need to understand that when, as a fan base, right, when we understand, you know, people say, yeah, but it's easy changing the manager. Well, guess what? The easiest solutions aren't always the right solutions. Sometimes you've got to make that tough decision. And Kroenke, I'm going to say this right now, forget winning the league, forget winning the Europa League, forget winning Champions League, forget top 4, forget top 6, and forget top 10 until Kroenke doesn't back this team. Because you know why? You know what? You know what's going to happen, right? United, they're going to heavily invest. City, the minute they see cracks, they go spend money. Liverpool going to do the same. You know, now you've got Spurs who probably will go do that. They're linked with Nagelsmann, you know, who, if he comes in, his philosophy will change that team, and they do have the players who can really perform under him. Then you've got Aston Villa. If they can hold on to their players and just strengthen a little bit, and they don't let Grealish go, they're a lot better than us. You know. Then you've got the likes of, you know, West Ham coming up. They've got the players with the right mentality. It's not about them buying players from Slavia Prague and whether they're better than our signings, like some people are saying. It's about the fact that they've got the mentality that they want to win. They are like, I don't want to say the word, but they are the B word. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. If they're losing, I know Kufal or Kofal, however you say his name, and Souček is going to go ripping into them. That's the problem. These teams are only going to get better, and we're only going to get worse. Because some of our best players, right, in this team, I'm not saying on performance, but just on paper, are about 30. So how long do they really have? Even Thomas Partey is about 28, 29. How many more years can he really give us? So until this team doesn't get back, we can forget. And this is why I've accepted the fact we're a mid-table team. Because we simply are. We act like one. We play like one. And our fan base treats them like one. Yeah. So we're all at fault for that.
What I'm going to do is we'll kind of get into the Burnley goal with this as well. But look, we've all been really vocal about the manager and, you know, what we feel is the real issue, whether it be the board, whether it be the manager, the players. I'm going to point the finger at the manager here for this one. And again, like anyone that knows will know that I'm always a backer and supporter. And where I want to point the finger is at the tactics today. And it's something that I hate to see. And I understand that it's just the way that the game has gone. But for me, I always call it suicidal defending. This playing the ball back to the goalkeeper. Now, look, my understanding growing up playing football, coming up through the youth ranks and that, coaches used to drill it into us. I wasn't a defender, but we would hear it all the time, being instructed to the defence. The one thing you do or do not do is play the ball across your own box. I understand the game it's changing. Goalkeepers are now adapting to, you know, using their feet, and when it's done correctly, yeah, it's definitely an asset. You know, you see Man City do it brilliantly well. We have had times against Man City in the FA Cup last season where we did it brilliantly. When it doesn't work, it really does put you under pressure. And we saw today that it cost us. Now, I'm not pointing the finger at the manager because of the instruction to do that. But where I'm pointing the finger at the manager is, look, we're all aware of the players he has on the pitch. He's got to be aware of the players he has on the pitch, i.e., Granit Xhaka, David Luiz, you know, love them, hate them, whatever. We know that there's a mistake in them. Like, we're fully aware, and Arteta's no fool. He knows himself. I'm in two minds with this one. Okay, I understand why Arteta's instructing the players to do what they're doing. My fear is, as Sulz said, the players don't have the footballing IQ. I don't think Arteta, I'm not sure if it's stubbornness or naivety or what it is, that he thinks he can, you know, turn this group of players around and maybe cut out the mistakes, and, you know, maybe feels, look, they're not as bad as people make them out. You know, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. Look, we know that there's errors in them, and I just think there's certain ways of playing when you have certain players in your team, and there's certain ways to avoid playing when you have certain players in your team. I don't think Granit Xhaka or any of those guys need that extra pressure of picking up a ball in our penalty area if it can be avoided. Now, I want to get your feelings on this. I'm going to go to Matt on this one. I've seen people say, look, the ball came back to Bernd Leno. He should have just hoofed it clear. I'm seeing other people say, no, he was right to do what he did. Granit Xhaka was at fault. He should have been aware of who was around him. My opinion is, yeah, look, the ball, first of all, should, if there's that kind of pressure on, that should have just been smashed as far up the field as Leno could have got it. But that's just my thought on it. So how do you feel about that one?
Do you know what? If you've got a team, like you say, I think you make a really good point, and it's one of the things that I wanted to raise around this was, if you have a team with the quality, like a Man City, with the technical ability and the composure on the ball in your back four to be able to play that kind of football, great, you go for it. If you've got players like Xhaka or David Luiz, who you know have mistakes in them, why on earth would you play a system of football and a tactic of football to put them under more pressure that's going to increase your likelihood of having issues and conceding needless goals? For me, it doesn't work. When you've improved your squad, you've bought players in, you've worked on it a bit, and you're not having those silly mistakes, fine, give it a go. For now, play safe. Play safe. There is an IQ thing with this, you know, and I totally agree with the footballing IQ argument. You know, you have to have intelligence. Leno is facing the right way. He can see that there's a player behind Xhaka trying to close him down and win the ball off him, and he can see that there's another player in the box. Yeah. As you say, at grassroots level, the very basics is, if in doubt, hoof it out, right? Yeah. Leno, for me, played Xhaka a hospital pass there. He's put him under so much unnecessary pressure. Absolutely, for me, should be cleared. There's no way in that position. Use your common sense, look around you, get it clear. There's danger there. If there's not two players in your box and it's just a simple pass to Xhaka, fine, you go for it. But to me, it's a ridiculous thing that we're trying to do with players who simply can't do it, and the players aren't using their common sense. And do you know what? It's one of the biggest things that winds me up about this team, because we do give away silly mistakes all the time. And this is one of those reasons. We shouldn't be playing that kind of football in our own box. We're not competent enough to do it.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me.
Yeah. Farhan, is this a character flaw of Arteta that, you know, is it stubbornness that he just isn't willing to accept that the players don't have the IQ to play the football he wants? Or, you know, is he trying to get something out of this group that just can't be done?
You know, when we talk about Arteta, we're talking about an individual with a clear idea of what type of football he wants to play. And it takes me back to the first ever interview that he gave. And he said, look, there are going to be non-negotiables. We need to do certain things. It's a process. And in order to be successful, we need to play football my way or the highway. So we knew from the beginning what we were going to expect of Arteta, and it was very, very exciting. Now, look, I have a lot of sympathy for Arteta because I understand that in order to introduce a different philosophy of playing football, in order to try and implement the ideas into the minds of players, it's going to be a long-term thing. You're not going to be able to get it overnight. things need to be practiced, things need to be implemented. And that's why I said at the beginning of the season, I'm going to give him this whole season to implement all of his ideas and to get things right. Because next season, there will be no places to hide. Okay, so having said that, I understand. I get the type of football that he's playing. And it's a very, very effective way of playing football. He would have picked it up at Man City and he would have learned under the trade of Pep Guardiola, who is a genius, who is an absolute genius. The guy has taken that one step further that Wenger introduced in England. He has completely remorphed the way that football is watched. Ever since Guardiola has coached, I have learned more about football than I could possibly have in my whole entire life, right? So we know that Arteta is learning intelligent footballing tactics. There is a philosophy that he wants to introduce at Arsenal, and I'm all for it, and I get that. Okay, but the reality is that when you have a group of 11 players that just simply aren't good enough, they're not going to be able to implement your philosophy of football. Today was a prime example. There was nothing wrong with the way the boys the way that they were trying to play football. In fact, we know that the way that Arteta wants to play, he spreads his centre backs out wide, and then the Xhaka, who sits in central midfield, slots into the middle so that there's enough bodies to then start playing out from the back. We know that, right? This is the way that Arsenal have been trying to play football for the last few months. Okay, the problem is the arrogance. The problem is the mentality. The problem isn't Leno passing it to Xhaka and then Xhaka misplacing a pass. In order to play that in that type of fashion, there needs to be pace, there needs to be tenacity, there needs to be quality. There was none of that. Everything was missing in that part of play. When they conceded the goal, it should have been a case that Leno gets the ball, passes it to Xhaka, Xhaka passes it to so and so, and then it's a very quick transition. It's a pass, move. Do you know what I mean? There has to be a level of authority. There has to be quality, and it's missing because, like I said, it goes back to the point. Us having this debate and this conversation about what went wrong, what went right, is totally meaningless because we don't have the right personnel at Arsenal to play the brand that we want to play. And Matt, you make a very, very good point. Why is Arteta implementing this style of football if he knows that he doesn't have the right characters, if he doesn't have the right players? Well, there are... I mean, the most extreme explanation would be maybe he's doing it on purpose. Maybe he's making a point to the board. This is the crap that you've given me, and this is the crap that you're going to be given week in, week out, unless you do something about it. Or he genuinely believes, and I genuinely believe, by the way, that these players are decent footballers. They have the potential to kick a ball, and they have a potential to have a good few run of games. But when you're playing for Arsenal Football Club, I'm sorry, mediocre and good is not good enough. You need to be exceptional. You need to be absolutely brilliant. And you know, it's so unfortunate to see us go from a period where we had Adebayor, Alexandra Kleb, Alex Song, Riziki, Ramsey, to then go to Alexis Sanchez, Mesut Ozil, Santi Cazorla, to now Granit Xhaka and whoever else plays alongside him. Do you know what I mean? The qualities have dropped down,
yeah.
and it's been a downward trend for the last 5 or 6 years. And I can't for the life of me understand why I've only picked up on it now. Like I said, the Burnley game was a moment where I realized that, hold on a minute, this isn't something new. We're not seeing this just this season. We've just been focusing our attention in the wrong places. So the sooner that we actually start asking questions about the ownership, about why things are the way they are, about why we haven't been able to bring in the right players at the right time. And guys, it's a fact. Ever since Granit Xhaka has been at the football club, and look, I do not want to be that guy who points the finger and says Granit Xhaka is the problem, because he's not. Granit Xhaka is not the problem. I do not blame him. I've got massive amounts of respect for him. I think he's a decent footballer. But ever since an individual like his quality has been at the club, we have not been playing Champions League football. Since Aubameyang's been at the club has not been playing Champions League football. Now that says a lot to me, and it goes back to all the problems surrounding the club. The fact that Sven Mislintat got left so quickly. The fact that all of our chief scouting networks has been shut down, and all of a sudden we've been focusing on stats. And these stats have been giving us the signings of players like Granit Xhaka, players like Gabriel Palista, players like I don't know, Nicholas Bentner. I don't know when you probably not Nicholas Bentner, but you get my drift. Just bang average players. And so what needs to, like I said, I'll repeat this again. If the manager is not backed in the summer, we are not going to be seeing anything different next season. And so it doesn't matter who starts. It doesn't matter whether they have a run of 5 good games. At the end of the day, the mentality isn't there. The players don't have a winning mentality. They don't have the mentality of trying to finish top 4. Arteta is a world-class manager. He has all the potential and the talent in the world to be a top coach, because he's had all of the conditions, the pre-existing conditions, to make him just that, to make him another Pep Guardiola. If he thinks he's going to do that at Arsenal, good luck to him. So far, what he's done at Arsenal, for me, I have to be honest, it's been very, very impressive. The style of football he's introduced has been completely different. The defensive structure that we've had has been completely different. These are the things that Arsene Wenger and Unai Emery failed to get right. The fundamentals, right? But now we're past the fundamentals. We have to look at who we're recruiting to play for this side. Because the Arsenal Football Club should not be competing with Burnley. It is an absolute travesty that I've just said that sentence. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would say Arsenal should not be competing with Burnley, a relegation candidate, by the way. All right, there's 7 points in the relegation zone.
Do you know what, Fan? You make really good points, actually. And I think, like you say, it's actually brought things full circle for me, because, you know, when we talk, I think it was Paul in the comments was saying about, you know, teams aren't tearing us apart. We are gifting goals. And we spoke about it last time. It's individual errors over and over again. And that comes down to really poor decision-making. Really poor decision-making. And that poor decision-making is down to the quality of players we have. And actually, the contrast you gave there with the quality of players that we've been very fortunate as a football club and as fans to witness, you know, in our stadium at our club, you know, we've been very lucky. But that's the type of player that we expect. And those type of players and that level of player does not make the type of decisions in those moments of a game that our current squad will, because they're not of that standard. And you're right, it comes down ultimately to recruitment. And that is ultimately a board issue. And I absolutely 100% agree with you, Farhan, that actually this summer is a massive, massive summer in terms of recruitment, because there has to be a backing for this manager. Because at the moment, we are right on the cusp of, are we actually going to drag ourselves back up the table and become or maintain our status as a big club? Or are we going to be a Newcastle United, a sleeping giant?
Yeah.
And just to add to all of what everyone's saying, I don't think the style of play is arrogance. I'm going to be completely honest with you, and I'm going to explain why. Now, when we look at the mistakes that these players are making, how is a Premier League player, right? Whether you agree that Premier League standard or not is up to you to say, but they are a Premier League player right now making those mistakes. The reality of the matter is this. When they make those mistakes, no one's there to really react on them. So it always is a series of events that lead to these goals. Now, even when we look at the Leno situation, the reason why I do blame Leno and Xhaka probably equally, but put a little bit of blame on Xhaka just with the way the play went, is because Leno can see more. The box is yours to command. And unfortunately, the reason why I've always said I prefer Martinez as a goalkeeper isn't because Martinez is a better keeper. He just commands his box far, far more. And I've made this point on other people's podcasts. If we name even the top 3, top 5, even the top 10 keepers in the entire world, you'll find one common denominator. They command their box. That is the one quality they all have. Unfortunately, Leno doesn't do that. So that's a problem. And that's not a stylistic problem. That's him not being able to understand the basics of football. We've said it here. When in doubt, boot it out. I got taught that when I was about 4. And I never played a defensive role when I was younger. As a cam, as a winger, you get taught that. So when you're a keeper and you don't know that, I'm sorry, how do you blame Arteta's arrogance for their stupidity or lack of, or their incompetency, should I say? Because when people say, playing at the back isn't the way to play, or, we don't have the players to do it, sometimes initiative needs to be taken because a coach cannot make every single scenario possible before he goes into a game. He couldn't predict that scenario that was going to happen. The only thing he can do is explain to you, look, when things like this happen, this is what you do. But when you're a professional footballer, look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The top flight football is 1% of the world's population. That is incredibly low. And you're telling me that we're sat here saying Leno should have hoofed it out. And he's meant to be a 1%, even less than 1% because he's a keeper. That he doesn't understand that that's what he had to do. Now, okay, he done that. Now, the reason why I also say Xhaka's at fault is because pass it back. The one thing you do every single goddamn time, Xhaka, is pass back. Why is it this one time that you didn't need to be positive, you decided to be positive? Why? I don't understand this guy sometimes. And my problem is, when people say it's a lack of leadership, it's a lack of... I'm sorry, why do the Premier League players need to be told to go finish their, chances? Why is it the minute they come out of halftime, they play well? Why is it at the start of game? I'm not saying recently, but we haven't started games badly. It's just an error or a series of errors that lead to these mistakes that then compromise the entire structure that this team then has to play. So when we look at the way that we set up as a team, I have no issues. I've never had an issue with these lineups because, quite frankly, they're the best we have to offer. And that's the sad thing. Not the tactics, not his decisions to play these players. Because I'm sorry, let's say, for example, people are crying, why is Xhaka always playing because he makes mistakes? Are the other options any better? Are we going to put El Neni and Ceballos together if Partey's injured? I'm sorry, I wouldn't want that. Are we now going to go put the pressure on Miguel Aziz? Are we now going to go and put two number 10s in the back in Martin Odegaard and ESR? I'm sorry, we just don't have the quality or the depth to really implement this football. And I don't think it's down to arrogance. I think it's right down to incompetent players, right, getting away with it week in, week out. And that's simply what I've got to say. I've said it again, and I'm going to say it again. If he is not backed, I'm not watching next season. I'm not going to care. I'm going to go in on these players every single week. I'm going to criticize the hell out of them. And I'm going to go for the board 100% because it's damn right disrespectful now. Be excited. Josh Kroenke, you said be excited. Be excited? Are you telling me this is being excited? You can shove that being excited up your fucking backside because you're so goddamn lucky you're in America. Because the minute, even in Wenger's farewell, the fans booed him. The fans booed Kroenke. That's how much hatred we have, that we didn't care about our Wenger's farewell. We wanted to boo these owners. They should have sold. They should sell.
Yeah, definitely. Just to quickly touch on, I can see in the comment section, there's some comments about like the playing out from the back. It's the first time that it's gone wrong. I don't think it is. Did Leno not gift Rapid Vienna a goal in the Europa League? And even besides, I know he played one out. I think it was either Rapid Vienna or it was someone in the group stage. I know. Leno passed the ball straight to one of their players and he took advantage. But even aside from that, there was Benfica, Granit Xhaka on the stroke of half time playing the ball across his own goal and almost gifting them a goal. So look, it comes back to, I'm not saying the style of play is the wrong way to play. I'm just saying with these guys in the team, you've got to be careful how you're playing. These lads don't need too many opportunities to absolutely, make a howler. So I just think you've got to keep it as simple as you can possibly keep it for these lads. And yeah, it's not the right way to do it if you can avoid it. You want to be playing. He's got an idea of how he wants to play. And look,
I understand that that's his philosophy, and by all means stick with it. But you have to take a step back and say, right, this is my philosophy. This is how I foresee us playing. Do I have the guys to do it right now? No, he doesn't. He doesn't have the caliber.
But the style of play isn't going to change mistakes, Anthony. No matter what system we play, those mistakes are inevitably going to happen. This is the first time we made a mistake like this. Usually it's a lot worse. We actually pass it into and actually make a brilliant creative pass into the opposition. This is the first time we've just gifted it them.
But if you look at the last couple of games, for example, you know, it seems to be every game we're saying, well, it wasn't that we were outplayed. It wasn't that, you know, a side did something and outsmarted us. It seems to be an individual error every single time. So at what point, you know, do you kind of go, possibly it is a flaw within the system? And I'm not saying that like overall the system doesn't work. I just think the system with better players probably works a lot better. If you're playing this system and we're starting to see individual errors, and look, we're calling them individual errors.
No, but even under Emery we had them. Even under Wenger we had them. It's not the system. I'm past the point of these players just simply have a mistake in them, regardless of what you do. You can protect them with 10 at the back and they'll still find a way to make a mistake because they're just that bad. Sometimes, right, their mistakes are that bad. And you know what's annoying, right? Xhaka had a decent game up until that point. And even after that, he had a decent game. This is what annoys me. Why is it that Xhaka can't have a game where we can't say, you know, I just want one game where we're not criticizing mistakes? And you can blame the system, but when players are making mistakes under every single manager, I don't think it's the system. I just simply start to say it's now the play. We've had two managers with experience. Okay, one's a novice or is inexperienced or whatever word you want to use. Two experienced managers couldn't get mistakes out of these players. How do you expect the system? What possible system could there be to prevent mistakes? Unless you really don't want to make them.
Do you know what, though, Sol? I think, you know, and a big shout out to Gary and Ray. Obviously, got Ray at our Arsenal fan circle, lots of comments like Anthony's picked up on. I think it is down to, I think it was Ray that said about it's down to execution. You know, and I think it's a good point. And we kind of have covered it really in the sense that the quality's not there to execute it. They don't have the IQ to execute the ideas that Arteta wants to implement. And we don't have the leader on the pitch to be able to take that information from the manager and actually implement it onto the pitch within the team. Because a good leader is more than just him. Players on the pitch will be very blinkered. I'm doing what I'm doing. I see what I see. Or I might see the player in front of me. A good leader on a pitch has vision of everything. He can see what's going on elsewhere on the pitch. He can pick up and identify on issues. He can dictate the tempo of a game. Right, guys, we've started to slow down. We need to up our tempo. We need to start getting on this again. Players can be very blinkered. We don't have that player who has that kind of vision and ability to dictate a game. And we're missing that. And I think that we miss that link between Arteta and the players on the pitch. And like Ray says, you know, that execution doesn't happen as a result, in my eyes. We're missing that link. Yeah. And it is quality as well overall, generally, too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, lads, look, that's pretty much the first half. So went in at the break, silly mistake. Again, we spoke about this, that lapse in concentration right before the half ends. We talked about this before, you know, the first couple of minutes of the game, right before half time, just as we kick off for the second half, and the last couple of minutes before the game ends. It just seems to be the concentration levels. But look, second half, was anybody feeling confident? You know, we going in at half time, was anybody looking at, you know, our body language and saying to themselves, you know what, I still fancy us to get something? Because personally, I wasn't. I didn't feel that we were going to come out motivated in that second half to get anything. And look, we will get into it as well. The substitutions and all. I do think, I will say in his defence now, I think he left some of them a little bit too late. But I do think he got some of the substitutions right today, the likes of Pepe and that. But just briefly, Farhan, you know, what were you feeling at half time?
I mean, when you look at a fixture like Arsenal versus Burnley, you're only thinking one thing really, which is 3 points. So inevitably going into the second half, I'm thinking, you know, we're going to claw it back. We're going to get back into this game and we're going to score a few goals and finish it off. We have to. This is Burnley. We had a great game against Leicester. We had a great game against Benfica. These boys have the ability to win football matches. But traditionally, I know that Arsenal always start their second halves really slow for whatever reason. It takes a little bit of time to get their gears going. I just wasn't expecting them to. I just wasn't expecting it to take 81 minutes for them to finally get into the game. And I think one of the biggest talking points about the second half for me is why on earth. I can't for the life of me understand why the approach to the game changed so drastically. And I finally got the answer because I listened to Arteta's post-match press conference, and he was a bit baffled himself. He said he responded to one of the reporters' questions about the game, about why in the second half things were a little bit different, and he was in the same boat as me. He didn't understand why Arsenal decided to play Burnley's game against them. Because at a point in the game, for a good 25 minutes, it was sending one long ball from one pitch to the other side and waiting for the ball to then be returned back again. David Luiz sending long balls constantly and then no one being able to head it or no one being able to pick it up. Burnley get the ball, send the long ball back again. We were literally playing their game against them and there was no effectiveness at all to it. And it outraged me. Because the most effective Arsenal have been, the most attractive we've been, is playing the football on the grass. Short passes, interchanging, getting your shape into a diamond and passing it in between the lines, etc., etc. We know what works and we know what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is flinging the ball over the top, playing in a really industrial manner in which no one else plays other than Burnley. And that's why it's so difficult to play against them, because they play in a particular style of football that is outdated, but that works for them. Because no one else can play against them. And again, you know, I sit here and I wonder, why did it take until the 81st minute for them to realize, hold on, lads, it's not working, these long balls. Let's keep it on the ground. Let's keep ourselves grounded and then play in and amongst ourselves and try and open them up that way. Because that's exactly what happened. And it worked. Pepe came on. Lacazette came on. They opened them up. Pepe misses a sitter, tried to take it with his left foot, and again, another player who is obsessed with his left foot. Same reason why we conceded that first goal. Granit Xhaka does not know how to use his right foot. And again, Pepe, the ball comes across the face of the goal. He tries to take it with his left foot, which is the most difficult thing to do from that sort of angle. Misses a sitter. He has a good few opportunities. Aubameyang has an opportunity in the last minute, which is blocked. Saka has an opportunity, and then obviously Ceballos hits the post. We have about 3 or 4 good opportunities in the last 10 minutes. I can't understand. And again, I think I've worked it out now. I think it's because we don't have the right players in the squad to play the football that Arteta is asking for. And the mindset isn't there. And for some reason, like I said, and it goes back to them being arrogant, for some reason they thought, you know what? We're Arsenal Football Club. We're 1-0 up. We're going to get through this half. If they score a goal, that's fine. We've got the second half to come. This is Burnley. They're 6 points behind the relegation zone. They haven't won a game in 6 games. You know, they've drawn their last 5 home games. We can walk all over them. And it's that arrogance, that arrogant mentality that cost us 2 points.
Yeah, well, look, I think we went into the first game with Burnley with that same attitude, and look what happened. And again, same story. Arsenal punished Arsenal that day as well with the own goal. But definitely that arrogance, you've seen that in the past. I know the easiest one to go back to is that Brighton game. When it came to light there, Guendouzi, and we know the rest. But yeah, look, there's an arrogance about that team that doesn't match the level of ability. Like where this, mindset has come from. Okay, you wouldn't mind if the Invincible side had a mentality like that, you could say, well, fair enough, they could back it up. Where this group of players has the cheek to carry themselves in that way, and say to themselves, well, this is only Burnley, we're Arsenal. And it's like, yeah, like this Arsenal is not Arsenal of how many years ago,
I'm sorry, Anthony. Invincibles, it's more like the Invisibles.
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't even be that kind, Matt. It was disgraceful. Look, VAR again. VAR. Matt, while I have you there, look, let's talk about the handball. You know,
do you know
VAR,
what? Yeah. Well, do you know what? When Peter Walton turns around and says it's a penalty, you know it's a bloody penalty, right? I mean, to me, if that was down the other end of the pitch, would have been a penalty. If it was another game, would have been a penalty. I mean, I used to think, and for a long time, I saw all this chatter about decisions going against Arsenal, you know, and I thought, oh, it's just a load of rubbish. Come on, guys, be a bit realistic. But it really does seem to be this way. Yeah. And you know, for me, that was a stonewall penalty. I've watched that clip back a number of times. Forgive me, whoever's account it was, but I have commented on it and I've seen the clip back because there was a little clip of it. And you can clearly see his arm extend out and then move down towards the ball. You can see it clear as day.
Yeah.
Stonewall penalty. Now, play continued. And to me, at that point, when the play hasn't even stopped, you know that penalty. I mean, I think all as Arsenal fans, we knew it was probably unlikely to be given anyway because we're all going, oh, well, we're never going to get that, are we? Yeah. Play continued. You kind of knew at that point they're either not going to review it or it was never going to be given to you. And look what happened. It's just, yeah. We shouldn't be relying on VAR decisions to be looking at this game and going, well, we should have won and we didn't win because we didn't get VAR. Because let's face it, guys, we should have been 3-4-1 up today and we should have been having a nice beer this afternoon going, okay, all right, we didn't get the penalty decision, but we had a comfortable win. Yeah. But at the same time, VAR is an absolute joke.
Yeah. Like this game, it was just like the Wolves game on repeat. You know.
Do you know what my problem actually really is? I watch a lot of Premier League. I watch a lot of other leagues as well. Why is it when Arsenal have a questionable decision, no VAR checks are done, no monitors are used? Why? That's what I want to know. Why is it that there's blatant fucking penalties that get checked 100 times? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that take 10 minutes to check. But when it comes to Arsenal, we just won't check it. That's my problem. I don't care, you know, if referees are incompetent because that's why the technology is there, but they don't use it. That's the simple problem. And I've said it all. I've said it all day. It's not the penalty I wanted to do, and that's why we lost on all of this. But it's just simply right because when the players did protest, I've never seen this right from a ref. The referee told them to go. And then I was watching the Midlands derby, Tyrone Mings, and I believe it was Target or something. They were protesting for a decision. The referee was willing to talk to them. Why is it when Arsenal protest, they're dismissive and they want to pull the card out straight away? I'm sorry, but something has to be done about this. And Arteta, you know what? Take the bans, but come out and call them and say to them, I have one question. Why aren't our decisions ever reviewed? Because if he gets a match ban or if he gets a couple of match bans for that, I wouldn't care. Because that has to be answered. Because I thought VAR was meant to be checked. I thought you meant to go to the monitor. You know, you're meant to evaluate. That's when, you know what, if they didn't give it at that point, I would have been like, fair enough. You know what, on another day, that would have... I'm not going to... You know, it's funny how none of these, right, get selected for the World Cup. They're probably not going to be considered for the Europa League. Or, no, sorry, for the Euros. Because they're shit. End of story. The idiots that don't understand their own rules, the Premier League and the FA don't seem to know what rule to stick with because every single day they change it. You know, and then the handball rules changed again. How many times do you have to change the handball rule? It's a simple concept. It hits your hand, it's a handball. What's hard to understand about that? Why does it need to be changed 4 or 5 times? You know, it went against Spurs, so we need to change it now. You know, this is my problem with the referees. The technology, there's no problem because nowhere in Europe I've ever complained about it. The minute it comes to the Premier League, we just don't use it. Because for example, United, when they were playing Southampton and the penalty call, similar situation with Wolves just before. But how many times did they check that one over? Someone can tell me, and I've seen about 4, 5, 6. I think they replayed that one about 8 to 10 times on the monitor, not the VAR, but on the monitor. When it comes to Arsenal, we don't even get one review. The monitor barely ever gets used.
Do you think, Sulz, that, or guys generally, Paul's just said something that I was just burning in my brain, actually, so he's kind of thinking alike. He just said, Wenger said it years ago, English refereeing is the worst in Europe. Now, I think, and I do think in the back of my head, I do wonder, because I think he was one of the first kind of managers to really call out the referees publicly. And I just wonder whether there's been a bit of a kind of endemic internal kind of thing with Arsenal as a football club for calling them out.
Do you know,
I know it's a bit kind of, conspiracy theory.
For a very long time, that has been the case. And I know people say, oh, yeah, you can't really say there's an agenda because other teams get it. But I'm sorry, other teams also get VAR checks. They also get reviews. And the one thing I want the FA to stop protecting these refs, and I want them to have a press conference. I'm sick to death, of these referees refereeing a game and then going home. Why can't they be called out? Why can't the press ask them the question, why was this? We're not asking for the abuse. We're just simply wanting to get clarification why these decisions were made. And this is to the whole team, not just the officiate, but the VAR team and the linesmen to come out and just explain themselves. Because I feel like if they did that, I'd have a lot more respect for them. And number two, I probably wouldn't be calling them out as much because at least they've explained themselves. Whether I agree at that point, at least they've told us their point of view. But simply never going to happen.
Yeah, it's bringing the game into disrepute, isn't it? Really, I think it's bringing
VAR's
the game
made it
into
worse. Bringing VAR in has made the officiating even worse. How has that become the problem? You've got replayers now, and you're still worse off.
Yeah,
how does that happen?
There's a great comment there. It shouldn't take for the clubs. It's the Premier League should be asking questions. Like at the end of the day, the Premier League, this is their franchise that's going out worldwide and be made an absolute mockery of by the referees. Like the Premier League need to be turned around and going, look, this is bad for our brand. Like we can't be having this. Like we're selling ourselves as the number one. This is the pinnacle.
Setting standards for the world of football.
Exactly. So the fact that they're allowing this to go on. And look, I'd be saying the same thing. If I know it's easy to say because look, we're all Arsenal fans and we're seeing it week in, week out, and whatever. But look, Arsenal aside, there's been so many absolutely horrendous calls. Yeah. It's not just those. Let's be fair, it isn't just those. It's happening a lot, but it's become a complete joke at this stage. And like I said, if I was, on the board of the Premier League, I'd be saying to myself, lads, this is an embarrassment now. Like, we're an absolute laughing stock, and we're supposed to be the number one organisation in world football.
Supposed to be home of football.
But literally, the only thing they're number one in is being like the biggest joke at the moment. They've got to get this sorted.
Do you know what, Anthony? I think that is partly the problem. I think part of this problem is the fact that the Premier League view themselves as such a huge organization. How can they be wrong? They can't be wrong. We are the head of football. We are what the world looks at. We cannot accept fault. This is the kind of arrogance, again, I mentioned, that I feel like the Premier League are portraying. And again, it's the same thing with the referees. The referees can't be at fault because they've got too much pride and they've got too much honor and dignity. When oftentimes you only need to look at a referee's face when the decision is overturned by VAR. You only need to look at his face to see how the embarrassment and the guilt. Oh my God, I've messed up. I've made a wrong decision. He looks a lot humbled. I saw it today when the red card incident. He gave a red card. It was supposed to be a handball, a red card, and then VAR checked it. It wasn't a red card. You saw in his face, right? That's not a red card. Eyes wide open. He said it to the player. That's not a red card. And then we'll do a drop ball for the goalkeeper. So I think there's a range of different egotistical issues here, and I think in the summer we're going to see a lot of rule changes. We're going to see a lot of amendments to how VAR is going to be used. There's going to be a lot more clarification. I expected there to be a bumpy road for when VAR was introduced. Of course, with any new technology, with any new system, there's always going to be flaws and problems. But to this extent, I mean, how many decisions have not only gone against us, but just this weekend, how many decisions have gone against clubs? I can count 4 from the top of my head. Clear-cut, stone wall decisions going against teams. You cannot get any more clear-cut with the handball issue than we saw today. Emil Smith-Rowe got the same decision went against him. His arms were up in the air, the ball flicked his arm, and I think that one was a little bit more ambiguous than today's one, if I'm being honest. At least with Pepe, we knew where he was trying to go. He was trying to flick the ball past
goal scoring opportunity.
Yeah, goal scoring. He was trying to get into the right area to either ping it into the box or to ping it into the goal. With the one against Emil Smith-Rowe, it wasn't a case of you knew where the ball was, where the player wanted to go with the ball. The ball was crossed, his arms were in the air, he jumped and it hit his hand, and it was a handball. For the life of me, I cannot understand why today's decision went against us. We need to still keep up the energy, despite saying, look, we should be winning football matches without VAR. If fans aren't as vocal as they are now, things won't change. And it's the same reason why Arsenal Football Club haven't changed. It's because fans haven't been vocal enough. We haven't put the board under as much pressure as we should have. But right now, I'm telling you, it's a moment in time where fans can be the difference. We can cause VAR to make the right changes. Otherwise, we might see this for the next 5 years.
The only way this is going to change is if once we bring foreign imports in. Because for me, I feel like there's a lot of affiliation. Let's be honest, right? Growing up in England, you're going to have club favourites. You're going to have favourites towards or have affiliations or more liking towards certain clubs and other. I'm not saying that that's the apparency, and I'm not saying that that's the case. But when you're in that country, you're gonna have your favourites. Your home, your home city. You might be an Arsenal fan growing up. We knew Howard Webb is affiliated with United, for example, but he still officiated their games. Now, when I'm not saying that he's the only one. We probably have an Arsenal referee. I'm just not sure of who it is. Until we don't bring a foreign import, someone who doesn't really have any affiliations to English football or doesn't really care about it, that's when we'll start to see an improvement, because their understanding of the game is far greater and understanding of the rules is far greater. And we need, when we bring in VAR, what we needed to do with that is understand the leagues that are currently using it and talk to them and understand their teething issues. We're the Premier League. We should have enough power to go over to, let's say, because I know La Liga has been using it for a while. They actually had VAR before they had goal line technology, which is quite surprising, but it was the case. And we should have gone over to La Liga and asked them, okay, you've been using it for a season, maybe 2 seasons. What are your teething issues? What is it that we can do as a Premier League to make sure that we stamp out straight away, or at least bring in certain rulings? Like the monitors weren't used last season, now they are. But unless you're Arsenal. So these things should not have been the case when VAR as a technology has been around for a while. It's just in the Premier League, it's recently been introduced. And even in the World Cup, it was monitors were used. When you look at the Serie A, monitors are used. When you look at La Liga, monitors are used. Why is it that it took us a season to understand that when it's been like that from the beginning of time? And when they said we're bringing VAR in, they were saying it's about the clear and obvious decisions. Why are lines being drawn for offside? I didn't know that was making it clear and obvious. You're making it too precise. Now, there's certain decisions, even I've said, are harsh, like the Timo Werner goal against Liverpool. That was far too harsh. That literally, the guy's teeny bit of cloth, right? The most tiniest amount, right, of cloth was offside. So they said it's offside. Now, for me, that's not what I wanted VAR to do. I wanted VAR to come in, have a replay, and do the eye test. If with the eye they can see the wrong decision, that's clear and obvious. Not, oh yeah, let's draw lines and let's do all this, trigonometry and, let's be so precise. Let's get our rulers out, and look at every little pixel, because then what you have to do is you have to make every single frame of when that ball was released from the foot and there was no contact with the ball at all, and then judge it. Because you can't be so precise on one area and forget the other.
Yeah.
You know what, Sulz, though? I think all of this comes down to one thing, and it's piss poor planning leads to piss poor performance. You do not roll something out as big as VAR into the game, whether that's in the UK, Europe, whatever, until you are absolutely sure that it's been thought out, it's been rolled out, it's been tested. You know, all of those little problems have been ironed out, at a youth level or whatever it might be that you might choose to do it. You've spoken, like you said, to European sides that have had it implemented already. You go and speak to other sports, rugby, for example, or ice hockey in America, how they've implemented it. You bring all of that back, you test it, you test it again, and you get it right. You then think, right, okay, well, those rules don't quite work, or these are the issues that we're going to have with things like the handball rule, because actually, now we've brought in VAR, that's going to be a problem. It's just they've rolled it out far too quickly. It's been ill thought out. It's ill managed. It's just really, really poor. And I don't think we should have a bumpy road when you implement anything like this. If you did that in the workplace, you'd be hauled over the coals by a manager for not thinking through your project properly. It's just poor project management.
If other countries didn't have it, I wouldn't have too much of a problem with us being the teether or us being the tester. Yeah. But the thing is, we're not. It's like when now when let's say, for example, the PlayStation 5's come out, there can't be teething issues with it because you've had 4 generations of consoles before. That's what I'm trying to say to you people. The World Cup had it. 2 leagues have already implemented it for at least 2 to 3 seasons before we brought it in. That's what you go do. And this VAR technology, cameras and everything like that, we knew this was coming. We knew this is the wave of football we're going to. So rules should not have been changed when VAR was introduced. This should have been in the makings way before we even looked at bringing VAR in. And when we brought VAR in, we should have been looking to other countries and already ironing out those mistakes. If we had already bought the monitors, if we had already, started doing all of this, and then there's mistakes, and no other European league is having issues with offside. No other is having issues with handball. No other, league is having issues with what we. And what the problem is, right? It's not like we're talking about it, once a month. We're talking about it every single game. Not Arsenal games, but every single Premier League game. VAR is always the topic of discussion. That's when it becomes embarrassing. Not one game a weekend.
I think you're right, Sulz, though. Your idea about foreign refs, an independent body. I think we've mentioned this somewhere, either on this podcast or another. Yeah. Where having an individual, independent third-party body. That's I think is it PGMOL or whatever it is at the moment. You have a completely independent VAR body that analyzes those games.
That's separate to the refs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely non-biased. There's no affiliation, like you say. It's completely separate, possibly even in a different location to the game itself. It has to be independent. Like I say, because, there are going to be, naturally alliances or even subconscious ones. I think you're right. It does need to be independent, and we do need to have more foreign influence in terms of officiating.
You know what it is, right? What you'll start to notice, right, is the VAR and referees in general are a union. Now, let's be honest, right? Let's say if on this panel, let's say one of us messed up, I don't know, for whatever reason, right? We're not going to publicly call that out. We're going to be like, you know what, you did something wrong there, mate. But we're not going to, we may just be like, you know what, actually, we can cover that up for him. And let's not, make him look embarrassed, or let's not, and that's the problem. They're friends, they're mates, they probably go out and have a drink together and all of this. And you are going to protect them to a degree. It's like in the workplace, for example. When you really get on with someone, if they've slightly messed up and you can potentially cover it without, but I know obviously this is televised and it's going to be called out by the fans, but the FA haven't called them out. They've not been banned for this. They've not been fined, nor have they been demoted, nor has there been any sort of punishment. Even Mike Dean wasn't punished for the mistake he made. I'm not saying the abuse was warranted, but I'm just saying that these bodies haven't punished him. Now, I can't remember which referee it was, but apparently he's injured. Coincidence? I don't think so. And this is the problem. Until these bodies don't start to, I'm not saying threaten these refs, but make them aware that, look, if you make a complete blunder, There's going to be some sort of fine. There's going to be some sort of, because they're full-time referees now. They're no longer, part-timers, or they have a passion for the sport, so they volunteer to be refs. They are now full-time professional referees that have gone from the ranks, from like championships to League Ones, building their way up, and they're meant to be the best England has to offer.
Yeah, well, look, I think we've definitely covered what's wrong with VAR. But look, on the flip side, there was a second VAR decision today, and look, we did get to see, the good side of VAR. Look, unfortunately for us, it was denying a penalty. But I think, look, in fairness, it was definitely the correct decision. I think it was actually quite clever play by Peters, the way he extended his arm, to use his shoulder to knock it over the bar. I don't know whether it was just a case of the referee playing it safe and he just seen some contact with an arm and said, look, I better blow this and just double check. But this is what VAR is for. So I don't think anybody disagree with that decision. I don't think, no.
No, that's a fair one.
All happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see. Referee gets it wrong. And VAR let him know, look, you got that wrong. And he reverses the decision. And it was nice to see, look, again, unfortunate for us, I would have liked it to stand. I would have liked VAR to get that one wrong, as it tends to do when it's gone in the opposite direction. But no, look, to be fair, it was good to see the red card was rescinded. And as I said, as unfortunate as it was, the penalty wasn't awarded. But look, it was definitely the right call. So look, we did have our chances. I think we've kind of covered everything. I don't think there's too much more to be said. We're just going to end up repeating ourselves. Like, we know it's the same old story. Arsenal lacking the killer instinct. Arsenal not putting teams away. Arsenal being masters of their own demise. VAR not being a fan of Arsenal. Our friend Kevin Friend not being our friend on VAR.
You ain't got no friends no more.
The only positive today is that Barca won. So that's literally my only positive today.
Can I just say, what was that all about? I just remembered this off the top. Sorry, just to interrupt your flow. I think, what was it with Lacazette going down like he'd been shot? Did you hear the screams?
Yeah. I thought that was really bad when he went down, actually. But no, it seemed to just be like he just got knocked off his legs. He just got knocked off his feet, sorry. Well, look, I think the Arsenal players I've learned now, unless they overreact like that, they're not really going to get anything out of it.
Yeah, that's something I did say before. I'm not sure whether it was on this podcast or on another one, that I think that without having a crowd there now, and it's so quiet, I think the players know, and I've seen the referees do it, that as soon as the player feels any contact, he's down and he's shouting as loud as he can, and the referee is, I don't think, even seeing the incident, but he's blown the whistle because he's heard the scream. And definitely, even I think it was Steve McManaman, I think it was commentating today, and he said, like, it was that loud. We heard that up here in the gantry. And initial thought, I sort of said, ooh, this might be a bad one here. Then look, it was just, he just got a boot in the back of the leg, and that was it. But yeah, look, everyone else is playing the game, so I think it's time we start playing it too, so as much as I don't like to see it. But lads, look, we'll look ahead now. We've got a Thursday night game coming up. We're back in Europa League action. We've Olympiacos up next. How are we feeling going into this one? Do you think this game today is going to have any real part to play? Sulz, what do you think?
If they don't show any passion, desire, or fire to win this game, they can hand their resignations in. They can terminate their own contracts and piss off, because they should not be needing motivation. They should not be needing to be fired up. If any of them have any self-respect, any self-dignity, they'll understand how important this game is. And if those apologies that I've seen online are to be true, I want to see one hell of a performance, because you were embarrassed last year or last season, and this is your redemption. This is revenge, And if and that's what I want to see. They have got a lot of pressure on them now, because they've shown us the mentality of bottlers. Can they change that? I'm very doubtful at this point, because I just don't trust these players enough anymore. And I know I'm meant to be Mr. Positive, but I'm sorry, but these players are not showing me any signs of a mental strength that really puts any faith behind them. Because even against Benfica, we should be putting those kind of teams to bed with the chances we create. Now, they did show the mentality in that game. I will give them that. It wasn't good. It wasn't, vintage Arsenal, but we got the job done. Now, Olympiacos, we need to do the same. We need to show that strength of mentality and show the fans that actually, do you know what? We made the mistake last season, but we're learning. And that, for me, is what the game is going to show.
Yeah, brilliantly said. And look, as you said, I know you're usually Mr. Positive, but look, you're real, and we appreciate you being real. Like, definitely, if it's a cause for being positive, yeah, we'll be positive, 100%. But look, if it was a crappy performance, bad individual performance, bad team performance, we're going to say it as it is, and that's what I like about this panel. We're happy when we win, we're rightfully upset when we lose, and we're not. There's some groups of fans out there who I think are they're pissy no matter what. So I think we're fair as we can possibly be. Farhan, again for you, does today's result change anything, or are you still looking at that Olympiacos game in the same kind of a light?
If there's one thing that I've learned from Arsenal in the past few months, is that they are very much a motivational based team. They thrive on motivation. They thrive on the occasion. If they're playing an important game where they need to pick up points and they need to win and they need to put in a performance, they will. If they play without pressure, then they'll crumble like they did today against Burnley. But Olympiacos are no mugs. We've played them before. They're a good, decent European side. And if we look down the years of the progression of the Europa League, it's often been described as, the Farmers League, or, not even Champions League B competition. It's like a C or a D. Throughout the last few years, some pretty good teams have now started to compete in the Europa League. You look at a lot of teams playing in the last 16, there are some really decent teams. We got quite lucky to get one of the weaker, quote-unquote weaker sides, but even Olympiacos themselves, they got some smashing players that we played against last season that we found difficult to play against. Players like El Arabi, players like Valbuena, players like Bruma, especially Bruma, the type of pace that he's got. But again, we can't go into that match with the type of arrogant mindset where, we're just going to walk all over Olympiacos. It's all right, lads, we lost last year, but guess what? We're going to be really up for it this time. Just get onto the pitch and then start passing it sideways and not being switched on. Olympiacos are probably going to be as turned up, maybe even more than we are, because they know that Arsenal coming into this game are going to be a different beast. They know that Arsenal coming into this game are going in to win, nothing more. Going into Greece, they're going to play a very tight game. They're going to try and frustrate the hell out of us. They might even try and play dirty and frustrate us in a physical kind of way. Who knows? Yeah. But like I said, Olympiacos is going to be no easy game. The first leg is going to be no easy game. The second leg is not going to be easy game. If they don't win, that's it. Season is done, and the repercussions will then be followed.
Yeah, definitely. And look, if these two Burnley fixtures were anything to teach us, you don't take any team lightly. And I think we were a little bit guilty of that with Olympiacos last time round. I think we were a little bit guilty of writing Burnley off. So as you said, look, if we're a team that goes in with no pressure, we're not going to show up at all. So yeah, I think we need to go into this game completely of the understanding that this is make or break, and look, Arteta, I know we're of the mindset that he's going to get next season anyway. I think that's a given. But I'm hoping he's not sitting there thinking that. I'm hoping he's not sitting there thinking, well, I know I've got, the summer transfer window, and I know I've got next season to prove myself. So this season is a bit of a, not a freebie. You want them sitting there thinking, you know what, potentially my job is on the line here if I don't, fire these guys up and get a result. Matt, yeah, what are you thinking? Are you sharing the confidence that if we show up, we should take this, or what are you thinking?
If we show up, then we've absolutely got the firepower to do it. My concern is that at this point, you look at the Benfica games that we've played, we weren't convincing at all. And I know that in the second leg, we did manage by the skin of our nose to get through. But it was a skin of our nose, and we did make it difficult for ourselves. You know, you look at our league form, we're stop, start. You don't know what's going to happen. We turn up against teams like Burnley and can't finish our dinner there. It's a massive game. And this competition, like Farhan says, we've got some good sides left in this competition. You know, and for us to actually win this competition, if some people are kind of hoping that we do that, not only have we got to go and get we've got to put in an absolute barnstorming performance against Olympiacos and really, you know, be cutthroat. But to win this competition, we have to up our game probably another 4 or 5 levels. Can we do that? I'm not entirely convinced. I think we will probably get through this next round. I think that, you know, like Sulz has said, you know, and Farhan said about motivation, they don't need motivation for this game. So we should be expecting a big performance and to really get through this one. But I'm not convinced that we're going to be able to up. I don't think we've got the squad, the players, the mentality, the history this season to be able to up our level that much to get past teams that we're going to meet in the latter part of this competition. So this game, yes, I think if we turn up, but forwards, not so sure.
Yeah, and like that, you know, we need to go into it thinking that, you know, this is our last opportunity. And look, regardless, whatever people say about the Europa League, I know it's not the Champions League and that, but look, at the end of the day, it's still a European competition. I'd still rather be in it than not be in it. I know people say, oh, it's nothing but a distraction and whatever. I don't buy into that at all. And yeah, no doubt if you went and won it, okay, yeah, you get Champions League qualification, which is huge. But you know, you're gonna have people turn around and say, oh, well, it's only Europa League. And look,
I mean, I don't hear people say that when United won it, and I don't see, you know, the fact that United are one of the favourites to win it, that's an embarrassment for them. But when it comes to Arsenal doing anything, winning the FA Cup, when it comes to winning League Cups, when it comes to even winning a Premier League like we did with the Invincibles, they look down upon that. So unfortunately, when Arsenal do something, it's not good enough. But when anyone else does it, it's the best thing to ever happen.
Yeah, definitely. But look, like I said, I look at it the same way no matter what competition, even if it's the Carabao Cup. If you're going to enter it, you might as well try and win it. I don't care what the competition is. If you're not interested in winning, don't enter. You know what I mean? And that's what annoyed me. Again, this is going off topic, but the FA Cup. Yeah, okay, our concentration was elsewhere. But look, if you're in a competition, you have to try. You have to go for it. And I would love nothing more. Champions League aside.
It's annoying, right? That team probably would have won. If we played them, if we played that now, like with the form that we've seen Willian entering, the form that we're now seeing Pepe enter, Lacazette enter, we probably would have won it now. So it's not the fact that they weren't good enough to win it or we rested players. I do think those players were good enough to beat Southampton. Again, it was another 1-0 that we lost by an individual error again. So, but yeah, no, I won't go on a tangent.
Yeah, this will open up a whole other podcast. No, but look, lads, I'm going to leave it there. So, look, I just want to say a big thanks to everybody who watched tonight. The usual, hit the like button, everyone who subscribes, and please do check out the panel. You can see their Twitter handles there. Don't forget to also check out their content, some brilliant content out there. And I'm going to let the lads probably finish up, give themselves a shout out. So, Sulz, let the people know where to find you.
Probably at a police station after I'm done with these players today. but once my release is done now, you can find me at Gooner Sulz at Let's Debate Footy. There's a lot of content coming, obviously, this month, and also a lot of previews, show reactions. There's always your Gooner thoughts, and there's just a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, nice one. And as always, we have Matt from the AFC Red Room. So, Matt, give yourself a shout out there.
Yeah, so you can find me on both Twitter and YouTube, AFC Red Room, as you can see on the screen. My YouTube channel's fairly new, so go and check it out. Obviously, videos being posted after kind of most games. Just give me a shout, give me a subscribe and a like, and hopefully I'll chat to you all on there.
And the resident therapist, Farhan, let the people know, because hey, we're gonna need your podcast.
Listen, first of all, I appreciate you having me on again. And also, a massive shout out to you boys, because it's not very common that you find fans who are so dedicated like us lot and like you guys who are putting out content every single day. It is, you know, I tip my hat to you guys, and it inspires me to make content. So thank you very much. You guys can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram at Gunner since 96. I aim to release a piece of content every single day, and as Anthony said, I do try and provide some form of therapy, firstly to myself before anyone else, because only God knows I need it, especially after the performances that we've seen of late. So if you want to listen to the podcast, it's the Arsenal Therapy Podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, lads. And yeah, as I said, big shout out to everyone on the panel. Big shout out to everybody who constantly takes the time to come in and show support, throw comments at us, like and subscribe. And this is why we do it. Yeah, look, we've Olympiacos up next. I know we were in discussions about maybe doing a watch along, so maybe that's something we'll talk about off air. So either way, we'll either be back, there'll be a watch along, or there'll be some kind of discussion, therapy session, whatever you want to call it at this stage. I don't even know. But yeah, look, thanks again, everyone. We'll be back. So look, it's a hard one tonight, but come on, you Gunners. We'll be back.
Cheers, boys.